Over at Marvel Comics, things got a little bit crazy during the mid-90s in the Age of Apocalypse storyline, where David Haller, also known as Legion, traveled back in time in order to stop a villain, but accidentally ended up killing his father, Professor Xavier. This caused a chain of events to kind of unwind in the X-Men that saw the X-Men need to undo this entire reality instead of living with some of the brutal horrors that they had encountered in the Age of Apocalypse world. After undoing the Age of Apocalypse, the X-Men find themselves at a very kind of similar standpoint right now, as they currently reside on the nation state of Krakoa, but on the X-Men's governing body, they seated a villain named Mr. Sinister, who's been scheming and lurking behind the backgrounds to create a alternate reality of his own that is about to cause havoc among the X-Men. My name is arakkobraddock, and today, let's go ahead and review Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants #1, the first official tie-in to Sins of Sinister. But before we dive deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. Next up, I want to go ahead and introduce our creative team. Fun fact, this issue is taking the place of Xmenred, one of my favorite ongoing series over at Marvel for a couple months during Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. So this issue is actually retaining the same writer of Ewing. We have art in the issue from Paco Medina, colors from Jay David Ramos, letters from VC's Ariana Maher, and design from Tom Muller and Jay Bowen. The cover for the issue is drawn by Leinil and Matt Milla. I want to read off the solicitation text for Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants to give you just a little bit more context into this issue. 10 years from now, Mars has been destroyed, and now Storm wants revenge. To get it, the new Brotherhood will battle their way through hell to seek the greatest secret of the Sinister Age. But are they fighting to save the world or end it? And who is the man called IRONFIRE? All right, and I want to kick things off by showing the cover here from Leinil and Matt Milla for Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants #1. One of the things that I enjoy about this cover for the issue is how it depicts kind of the character change for Storm in her costume. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this Sins of Sinister story is that it's actually able to tie some of these costume changes into the story. The kind of alternate reality setting for the issue is wonderfully kind of depicted through these first couple pages of the issue over from Paco Medina. So it's just so cool kind of getting the first crumbs at what caused the X-Men universe as we know it to spiral into this alternate universe full of Sinister's machinations throughout the issue. So it's pretty chilling to kind of slowly depict and see what causes the change from the xmenred of Arakko to the Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants characters in the first place. I really enjoy how Marvel has kind of changed up some of the design elements of the issue, and I think that's what makes Sins of Sinister feel ever so slightly different from some of those main X-Men issues. Also, one of the cool things about this particular issue is how the tie-ins for Sins of Sinister are broken up into sort of years of 10. So this one shows kind of the first 10 years of the Sins of Sinister timeline, as it pertains to Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. One fun thing about this storyline is since it's written by Ewing, who's writing the main Xmenred book, there are so many different plot points and characters that you're going to see from the Xmenred title that are tying over into this issue. It's thrilling to see kind of the newer continuity characters go through the Sins of Sinister as opposed to just kind of getting your standard X-Men fare that you would expect to see. So I really like the fact that, Sins of Sinister is taking advantage of the Krakoa Age of Comics by including so many of these niche Xmenred characters together. Also, one thing that I really enjoyed about this issue is even though Xmenred is a really dense and complicated science fiction book, there's always a level of silly humor that makes the issue really kind of stand out and look different amongst its contemporaries. Despite the fact that this is like a spy story with so many dark elements, there's still that level of novel humor, imbued within the issue. And also, just some of the same tone from the X-Men Red series is also here, as there's something about the way kind of this team is introduced and the characters are arranged that kind of the full creative team really seems to take joy over. I really like how in place of somebody like Stefano Caselli, we're being treated to Paco Medina in this issue. Paco Medina's art is incredibly clear. Medina is able to depict so many different X-Men characters on the page. I think he's an excellent fit and really falls into kind of like the artistic cohesion of the X-Men. I love kind of how the art in this is a little bit similar to maybe what R.B. Silva was doing, or even Pepe Larraz, but with a little bit of its own style amidst the other titles in the X-Men universe. I think this is largely because of Marvel's editorial picking kind of artists that are similar to each other, but of course it helps, I think, reinforce the comic book as a whole. And I think for me, the single most intriguing aspect of this story is that the final 2 pages of the issue is we actually maybe get treated to a little bit farther into the future to see exactly how Sins of Sinister may end. So I like that kind of tease there at the Sins of Sinister, a Dominion story that's yet to come, and think that that kind of plot line that they're carrying forward with these Sinister characters is very intriguing. I love kind of like the idea of the chimeras. And also, one of the things that I did enjoy about this issue too is that it gave the character of WizKid a little bit more characterization. I really enjoy WizKid, and I don't think he is represented in these comics often enough. The one thing kind of negatively I will say about the script is I think the middle of the issue does drag a little bit. The ending in particular is just so compelling, and the beginning is also incredibly compelling too. There's a hook right towards the beginning of the issue that really kind of can suck you in and help you get deeper into the issue. I think one of the things I'm a little concerned about when I zoom out and just take a look at this is how new readers may feel overwhelmed with some of these characters, from Arakko making up Storm in the Brotherhood of Mutants. And to any of those readers who may be a little bit apprehensive towards this issue, I would really have to say that if you go in here with an open mind and try and absorb as much of the modern X-Men knowledge as you can, you will find something fun here. As long as you have an idea of the story that essentially Mr. Sinister is kind of weaving things into his own twisted timeline, and you're essentially looking at how the X-Men go from the current age of Krakoa to the first basically 10 years from the vantage point of Storm, who is, of course, opposing Mr. Sinister. I think if you have just that narrative context, you will have enough information to really enjoy kind of several aspects of the book, and also get teases at other parts of the X-Men to see where things are going. So despite the fact that there's just so many elements of plot, so many characters in this issue, I really enjoyed the fact that Al Ewing is staying so focused here. We have some great lines, great dialogue over from Storm and Mystique, and also just kind of that focus on Destiny that we get teased at the end here is really magnificent as well. So even though this is a really kind of crazy plot-focused issue of X-Men, there are still so many kind of fun moments to be had interspersed with all of the individual mutants throughout this issue. I really think it's kind of a joy to read, even outside of the context of this event, just to see kind of some of those character interactions, because I really think that there's something special about the tone, both in Xmenred and in Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. It can be incredibly silly at times, but mostly it's sort of like a serious, hardcore X-Men, space opera title that has always been a sort of plot thread towards the mutants ever since kind of, what Chris Claremont did. So those are some of my thoughts over on Storm and the Brotherhood of the X-Men. I really enjoyed this issue. I think it had so many interesting teases at what's to come over in the Marvel Universe. I love the way that the costumes are kind of changed up for this event. I think it helps Sins of Sinister feel a little bit special and a little bit more unique. I love how the plotting of this is starting to give, clues at how this entire sort of crossover event could even end. So the fact that there's all these kind of breadcrumbs here, and readers might be able to even pick up the pieces and solve this thing before it's even finished, is a sort of tantalizing proposition that I appreciate that the creative team is able to lend, to this issue as a whole. So there are so many wonderful things about Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. There's so many fascinating characters and elements of continuity that are twisted or changed. But I know that things are going to get even crazier in future issues as we're going all the way from the 10th year to Sins of Sinister to the 100th year of Sins of Sinister in the next chapter. So please make sure to go ahead and stay with us, because I think the craziest elements of Sins of Sinister are still yet to come. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out the video. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts were on some of these X-Men titles and Sins of Sinister so far. Thank you guys so much for coming to check out the video, and we'll be back really soon with more excellent comic book content. We'll see you soon. Bye.